Welcome to another edition of Northern Heat. My name is Bob Lennon, President of ThermalWood Canada, and host for the show. Our special guest today, Gair. How are you today?
Hey, it's great to be back on the Northern Heat, and I know it's always an honor. I don't know, is this the second or third appearance?
I think it's third.
Could it be?
Yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah,
and I'm sure someone else holds the record for most appearances on the Northern Heat.
My grandson.
Your grandson. I
Aiden
can understand,
has been on more than you.
I can understand why, but I just want to feel like there was a time when, guys would be, make X number, like Don Rickles used to be on the Johnny Carson show all the time. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I'm here in New Brunswick, and
you're back. You're back. You come to visit some family, and at the same time, it gives us a chance to catch up. We haven't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah.
And the Northern Heat's all about people that are doing something special and
making a difference.
Making a difference.
Bringing the heat.
Bringing the heat. And just before we started, we were talking about what would be the topic today, and what would we talk about? And you were a big announcer at one time and into sports and wrestling and everything else. And just lately, there's one of your good friends and somebody you looked up to, Leo Burke, passed away. And but he was special in your heart, and he was special in New Brunswick. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we certainly can, Bob. And I know that a lot of the viewers of this show, I mean, you're all over the world, because as soon as you're on YouTube, you're everywhere. But Leo Burke, too, was known all over the world. And he was the last of the four Cormier wrestling brothers, Rudy K., Bobby K., the Beast, and Leo Burke. And Leo passed away in Calgary, and I live just outside of Calgary. And it was a real honor to speak at his celebration of life.
Oh, you were there too.
Leo was 76 years old, Bob, and I think a lot of people watching, and I know, especially in the North Shore area, like Tracadie and Caracat and San Isidore and San Ignace and all these different places, Grand Prix Wrestling, used to go make appearances there. There'd be lots of people who watch this also can remember the days of Killer Carl Krupp and Maniac Frenchie Martin and the Stomper and the Cuban Assassin.
All these things are starting to come back in my mind. I was just a little kid back then.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, is that there were some pretty monster heels that would come into the Maritimes. I remember the Cuban, when he showed up, he was threatening that he was going to take all the belts, Bob, and the tag team trophy and take him back to Havana, Cuba, to give them to Fidel Castro. And I don't think he was just making that up. I think he was pretty serious, okay? And like I say, Killer Carl Krupp, the European heavyweight wrestling champion, a scarier face I don't think anyone's ever seen. But who was there to defend the honor of the Maritimes and New Brunswickers? Leo Burke from Dorchester, New Brunswick. Leo Burke. And Leo, he went all over the world. He was in Japan on multiple occasions, wrestled throughout the United States, did a lot with Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, worked very closely with Bret the Hitman Hart in training wrestlers who are now competing in WWE.
Yeah.
And it's a real legacy of greatness that has been left by Leo Burke. And I think a lot of people would like to know that he had a great send-off. His health was not good over the last year or so. So, as they say, he's in a better place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, and again, I think a lot of folks would like to hear there was a lot of Maritimers who made it to the service, and Bret Hart was there. Bret Hart said some incredible things on social media about Leo and the respect. And I will say this, Bob, that business, it's a little more rough and tumble than thermally modified wood. Like I know you duke it out and go toe to toe with Pierre and Jonathan
on a regular basis.
But with all due respect, okay, the pro wrestling business is very, can I say it on this show? It's very cutthroat. And
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, and it's there's a lot of jealousy and infighting, and yet on both sides of the room, the baby faces and the heels, Leo was one of those guys everyone had great respect for. And if you'll permit me, Ken Reid from Sportsnet.
Yeah.
I think Ken Reid's one of the greatest sportscasters in Canada right now. And Ken was really devastated when he heard Leo had passed, because he grew up in Pictou County in Nova Scotia. And he said to me, he said, Leo was the guy who gave us, as little kids, some hope that good could triumph over evil, but also that you could come from here and make it in all kinds of different places, in different parts of Canada, the US, and
absolutely.
you know.
But back then, when they were stars, we didn't have all the TV channels that we had. We didn't have the cable that we had. This is what we watched and what we've seen.
Right.
And this is history. He was part of history, and he was a part of being the icebreaker of being able to open this up to the future where we are today. Because most of the people, when they talk about wrestling, they see what's on TV and how big this has become. Because it wasn't that size back then.
Oh no, and it's the pioneers of the sport, like a Leo Burke, who really helped pave the way for a lot of what you see today. And so I'm sure people who are watching, I think everyone would enjoy and appreciate any comments anyone wants to make in the comment section about their memories of Leo Burke and those four Cormier brothers, the Beast, Rudy K. and Bobby K., especially about their appearances up in northern New Brunswick, where we know the real northern heat is happening.
But it is history, and the Northern Heat's all about telling the stories that we haven't heard before.
Yeah.
And here's another one. People have heard these stories, but there's a whole generation that never did.
Right.
Hopefully, this interview and this opportunity that we've had to talk about that today will get some young people saying, "Oh, who was Leo Burke?"
Right.
And go do a little bit of research.
Right.
Google
him and start and look on YouTube. And that's the great thing and that's really, I wanted to make mention too. I think that's one of the great things you're doing with this show. And I know there's people behind the scenes now helping you with this show. Bob Lennon got this show off the ground. Basically, him and Jonathan single-handedly 6 years ago or so. And now you got you got 2 or 3 people working behind the scenes. You're bringing these stories about New Brunswick that no one's really heard about, and providing, in my view, such a great service. Here, I live in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains just outside of Calgary, and yet, I watched it not too long ago. You're telling the story with Ken MacLeod about Dan Brown, the author of the Da Vinci Code.
Exactly. Coming to Moncton.
Yeah.
And wanting to come back.
And these are incredible New Brunswick stories and maritime stories. And I think that's just such an intrinsic part of what we need to preserve culturally, because we know traditional media is crumbling bit by bit.
Yeah.
We know this. We've known this for a long time. And people in the newspaper industry didn't want to believe it for a long time. And people in other...
Now where are they?
Well, and, people in the Yellow Pages industry didn't want to believe it for a long time. And look, we know there's a lot of hardworking people in these different industries, but change happens. And you either ride that freight train of change, or that train's going to run you over.
Yeah.
Like, that's the choice anyone's got.
Yeah.
Well, happened to you at Brunswick Mines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Personal, and on a very personal level.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And there's, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of history and the opportunity. And I'm great that, and really happy that, you kind of were an instigator in a way of getting me to think this way and to look at things in a different way. And it opened up my eyes to doing the things differently, which is great.
Well, and when you think about it, here we are chatting in a Moncton or Dieppe hotel
Yeah.
lobby, and yet on a free platform like Facebook or a free platform like YouTube, and this could be all chopped up too and go on TikTok or it could go on LinkedIn. This can literally be viewed all over the world.
Absolutely.
And you've had what were you telling me? How many views?
It's getting close to 1.5 million there.
1.5 million.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet from Bathurst, New Brunswick, population what, 13,000 or so?
Yeah, 13, 14.
This is all happening.
Yeah.
And you're from a niche manufacturing industry, and you're really showing a lot of entrepreneurs, in my view, and business owners what is possible in terms of creating your own media.
Yeah,
you know,
and the crazy thing about all of this stuff, it works. Yeah, it works, and it's getting out there and letting people know, because people call you up, people talk to you, and I'll just give you an example. During the hospitality days in Bathurst, this year was an incredible festival. The team there, and a shout out to them, and what they did was absolutely incredible, and what they did. But they brought the bare naked ladies to town. Okay, first time.
Remember, now this is a family show.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. I never really thought about it that way. But anyways,
because some people might be thinking all kinds of things.
So BNL came to town.
BNL.
So they came to town. There was, 6,000 or 7,000 people there in Bathurst in the ball field listening to these guys. But I turned around and looked, and there was a lot of people that had come back home. One, because that was an attraction, but two, they were coming back home to see family and stuff, and made family reunions. And I bumped into quite a few old friends I hadn't seen in a while that lived away.
Right.
And when I mean away as you, out in Alberta. And one of my old friends told me, she said, I watch your show on a regular basis. And she said, it's heartwarming to see all the stories and understand the background of it and where things have gone, and see some of the scenery and seeing some of the people and recognizing they're married to this person, or they're connected, or this is such and such a son or whatever. And she was very happy and pleased that we're bringing Bathurst to Alberta.
Yeah, well, and that's it. Bring Bathurst to Alberta, bring Bathurst to the world, because we know there's no shore like the North Shore. That's for sure. That you can take that one all the way to the bank.
Yeah. Talk to Marshall Button. He'll bring that up every time you talk to him.
Any other New Brunswickers you want to shamelessly do a shout out for?
Listen, there's plenty of them out there that we could, but I think personally that we've got so much to boast about, but we're not a culture of people that boast.
Well,
but we got so many stories, like Leo Burke, like Marshall Button, like you, everybody around. We got so many of these stories that are untold stories, or they're stories that haven't been discovered yet, and that's probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah, and I would even go as far, if you'll permit me.
Yep.
If you know of a person, an individual, an organization, a community group that really has a story that needs telling, reach out to this guy, Bob. You're taking, and people do this. They're now sending in. They're now. I know people are now sending in recommendations for who should be on the Northern Heat.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. On the Northern Heat report. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Let's keep this thing rolling. You've got a great thing going here, Bob, and kudos to you and Jonathan and Gair for seeing the vision in the first place and moving forward.
Well, again, Gair, thank you very much, my friend, for us meeting together when I worked at Brunswick Mines. That's where it all started way back when. And then for years later, becoming Tech Speaker of the Year, and me reaching back out to you and saying, you still talk to the little guys?
Well,
but you did. And it helped us. It has enlightened us, and in a different way of marketing our business and getting the story out there. The fun part about it is that this is fun. It's fun to go out there and talk to people and to get their stories and to be able to allow them to tell that story.
It's supposed to be fun, and I believe deep down, Bob, that every company that's worth its salt. Every leader that's worth his or her salt has a story to tell. It's just a matter of digging it out and being true to yourself and putting it out there. And that's what you are doing with the Northern Heat Report, my friend.
Well, you are another example of somebody from Brunswick being able to see things and doing things in a completely different way and helping others get there. So again, keep up the good work. Thanks for coming home for a little bit. And I gather you're working on potentially another book.
There's another book in the works. Yeah, there is another book in the works. If Big Little Legends explored the topic of brand, the only thing I want to give anyone a heads up on is I'm really fascinated now by the subject of legacy. So, you know, how everyday leaders build irresistible brands. Well, that was Big Little Legends. The next book is how do everyday leaders establish modern day legacy. I want to write the book around that and tell it in a way that I don't think anyone else is looking at, or just examining it from a completely different angle or multiple angles, multiple points of view. So I'm going to take a few days to really flesh out the framework of the book and go from there, and maybe play a little golf and you know, we got to play, actually, I'm coming off the course.
With your dad?
With Dad, yeah. We just did the 6th annual 4-generational invitational with my father.
And he beat the pants off.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say beat the pants, okay? We were in it right to the end, Bob. We were in it right to the end. Ryan and I were down by 2 points going into the 18th hole. You know, if we could have got a few breaks here and there, a few bounces, it could have been a very different story. But in the end, when the smoke cleared and the dust settled, the Tartan Tornadoes, Jim Maxwell and my grandson, Caden Maxwell, they won their 6th consecutive title in our division. Ryan and I are 6-time runner-ups, but hey, we compete in the toughest division in golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
So thanks again.
Thank you, my friend.
And there we have it. Another edition of Northern Heat for this week, the place you come to listen to the stories that haven't been discovered yet.